Hello, my friends. I want to expose a little more about, what is it that keeps us so trapped here in the matrix? And I talked a little bit about, I think it was yesterday, how a lot of the things we carry are basically not ours. It's something we've taken on from probably our childhood or, cultures, whatever, something we have taken on as a reality and that it is ours. And that's a very important piece. And I want to expand on it a little bit that the biggest obstacle is basically that we are taking everything that's happening in us and through us as if it is personal. And referring back to the video yesterday, that, we're carrying these burdens that they may not even be ours. And the bottom line is that none of it is ours. None of it is yours. It's all impersonal. And I'm going to reference a little bit to Joe Goldsmith again, which I do often, who was definitely my inspiration and opening into the spiritual world many years ago. He was a healer and really to the point where things basically just dissolved back into their nothingness, as he would call it, just by his presence. So he had a very strong presence of the divine, of truth, of harmony, of coherence. So just walking around and having people come to him for healings, he didn't do anything, nothing. Well, he did do something. He didn't do anything to heal people. He would just go inside and rest back into his, I'm going to say, divine coherence. He didn't use that word, but that's a word that we use a lot these days, right? Like the mind heart coherence. And it's a common word now. And the field, the divine field that we live in, that is basically coherence itself. There is nothing in there that is not in coherence. And that's why there are no problems in there. There's no disease, no lack, no limitation, because those are the things that exist outside of the field and they are not in coherence. So Joel would just go in and connect and be quiet. And then most of the time, there would, if not probably all the time, there would be some kind of a knowing or an energy that moved through. And many times the people's problems, incoherence, would just melt back into coherence, which is the naturalness of everything, the fabric, all of us. So he knew it was impersonal. He knew whatever people were experiencing that seemed out of coherence, he knew it was impersonal and that it was not theirs, as I talked about. And because of that, he knew that it was basically nothing. That's a word he used a lot. That it's nothing. It's just a nothingness based on the fact that it is not personal. So we can't personalize something that is impersonal, that is just like a hypnotic suggestion. It's just a hypnotic suggestion. It's an impersonal hypnotic suggestion, and we can accept it and make it personal and then suffer the consequences of that. Or we can see it as an impersonal suggestion and not make it personal and just keep it where it belongs, not in our presence, not in our consciousness. And then these things would not be experienced in our lives. And then if we had personalized something, or if people, I didn't know Joel personally because he passed away um, when I was just a child, so I never met him. But if somebody did personalize something, and let's be honest, we all do, right? And then it came into his presence, came in, and then would reach out to his presence, and then things would just harmonize and go back into coherence because he knew. And then the impact of that was seen in his presence because his presence is his experience. And there is no disease in his experience. That's why it was just an incredible um, revelation that he basically brought. And that, of course, was very similar to the Christ back in the days. So he would use two terms when he was doing his healing. He would say he would impersonalize it and he would nothingize it. It's kind of a word nobody uses. But a lot of the things that we were, that we learned to do was to impersonalize and nothingize. And I can tell you that is not a small task. Most of us did not come in with that state of consciousness that Joel did. So it's been practicing and practicing, and it's not so easy. It's almost like you have to really be dedicated to this for that to become our reality, that it is impersonal and it is nothing. So it has no power. That was the other thing. He knew that it has no power. And because the power of disease, for instance, is only in the dualistic mind where there is disease and health. So it always, this is where we all live. And because Joel was outside of that, at least when he went into the silence, there was no duality, and that's why there was not an external manifestation of it either. It's deep stuff, and it's something that um, it's a dedication to realizing that truth, I would say. But to come back to, if we look at what I consider at least one of the biggest obstacles that keeps us stuck and trapped in the matrix, is that we are personalizing all these hypnotic suggestions that come to us 24/7, right? It's my pain, it's my lack, it's my depression, it's my experience of the fear, the fear things that are being projected out in the world. So it's all, we are experienced, everything is very personal. And then of course our emotions also get attached to that. And then we are very much trapped in the matrix. And it can be hard to unhook from those emotions and these attachments because they feel so real. If somebody tells you when you're in the midst of your hardest, most painful emotions, say, oh, it's impersonal, it's not real, you want to smack them, right? And rightly so, because it's not helpful. If you can bring a coherent consciousness to it so they can actually get a taste of that, that's what Joel did. Then they can actually experience it themselves, that it's nothing, that it's no power because the healing happened. But in the meantime, we can certainly start practicing to impersonalize what we have personalized. And that right there, you will experience a tremendous amount of freedom and liberation and peace because you don't take it personal. One thing is, of course, to not take it personal when people say or do things to you that might be painful. You can just see that, it's just their unconscious expression that is not connected to the coherent field, that is just acting out, and it has absolutely nothing to do with you, unless you feel some kind of a response where you are aware that you may have left the field itself and have been acting out of coherence. Then it certainly is something to look at, so you can also let it go from within. As we start disengaging, or at least practicing to see things what they are, it's impersonal. You can again do a little internal check and see what gets touched by that inside of you when you start looking around in the world. The war, the this, the that. There's plenty to look at that looks very personal and very scary. What if it is impersonal? What if these are impersonal suggestions that are showing up as if they are very personal? Would you be able to just, even for a moment, to not engage with it and just, it's like just observe it. Observe it without trying to fix it, making it better, make it go away, but it's like taking a step back into your true nature. And just as, with the burden I talked about yesterday, it's impersonal, the whole burden we've been carrying, whether it's from our lineage or wherever it's from, the whole thing is impersonal. And that is what is hard for us to realize. And that is why we keep cycling around in the matrix. There are many, many, many people. It is really touching, like so many of my friends, my clients, a lot of some of the people that I respect very much who are doing podcasts. They're all saying the same. It's like there is a consciousness ripening for all of us to actually realize that the best thing we can do in the world right now is to just hands off, don't touch it emotionally, go into the peace, go into the stillness of who you are, into your core essence, into your soul connection. That's where the peace is and will come from as an outer experience, not by trying to change things and by, all the insanity that's going on right now. It's not doing any good if we get too involved with our emotions. We literally are just making the impersonal personal in our experience. So in that sense, we feed it. So the best way is, if you can find it in yourself and see this is impersonal and there is a huge cleansing and purification going on. That is not a personal thing. I wrote talked the other day, it's not a punishment if you're going through a lot of intensity, which most of us are right now, because all the things that we had made personal inside of us, they're not personal, and they're being purified out of our system so we can see that, oh my God, that's not who I am. That's not my true nature. It was something I had taken on because of these hypnotic suggestions, and I had personalized it. I had attached to it, and then was living that out in the world, and and adding to the problems. So just see what it's like. Is it possible for you to practice seeing things as impersonal? Maybe your neighbor comes over and is not very kind, or, the cashier at the store, or maybe sometimes your animals, it seems like they ignore you. Um, and there's probably much bigger events too. Just practice for a moment and just realize that it is impersonal what is happening in your five sense experience. And it's just practicing to not engage, to not react, And instead allow that part in you that has personalized it, that has a reaction, right? Just allow that to come out. Again, it is impersonal, but it feels personal, but it is impersonal. So that's why it is okay for you to just let it arise without trying to fix it or heal it or whatever. It's all just happening when you just let yourself rest in the fire of truth and the fire of the divine, which is just the light that just burns everything unlike itself into oblivion, into the nothingness that it already was, that it always was. Give it a try and let me know how that is for you, how that lands for you. Is it possible? If not, please reach out. I can certainly support you in unhooking and noticing every time you go out to engage either your own story or outer stories. It's almost like sometimes I feel like I have hawk eyes, I just see it right away, and then I can help you see it yourself. And then you can do something about it, right? Which is you can choose to not engage because now you can see it. So it is very helpful sometimes with an extra pair of eyes, whether they're hawk eyes or not. So you can start seeing it yourself because it can be very difficult when everything feels so personal. How do you get out of that, right? It's like, no, it's here. It's like, no, try and go here. It's like, no, this is all there is. So it can be helpful, and I invite you to reach out if that might be of support to you. All right, friends. Oh, and also next week, Tuesday, July 1st, is our next online gathering called Feel Your Deepest Longing, Find Your Spiritual Calling. And it's all about finding the depth of what we deeply, deeply long for and knowing that is actually the divine calling us home. It's the same thing. It's amazing, huh? I hope to see you there. The link will be in the description. Have a great day.